Lotus. Yeah, hello. This is Margherita Crystal Lotus, and I have an amazing person on my call here today, and her name is Heidi Hornlein, and she and I are going to talk about authentic voice. Hey, Heidi, will you say something and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello, Margherita. I'm happy that we continue with this conversation. Yeah, I am, you can say, a voice therapist for the last 25, almost 30 years. Before I was a opera singer, and in time doing teaching and therapy, I discovered that the voice is really a very, very, very important part of our being. And so I always went more and more towards psychotherapy, towards, the self-knowing consciousness of self and so on. And this really opened up a whole lot of possibilities, the self-growth process via voice. And I did this for quite a long time. And then I entered into my own growth, but I did coaches trainings and so on about relationship work. Now I'm about to connect these two things because, what relationship do you have, for instance, to your voice?
Yeah, so this is a very exciting topic because I'm sure many people love to hear about that deeper inner connection, right? And so how have you gone about actually so far to connect your opera singing, your voice training, and your relationship coaching?
We will be talking today to find your authentic voice. And this in the society normally is not really connected with your physical voice, but it's connected with, your voice in the world. So what you say in the world, for instance, what is the truth of you, what you tell. And authentic voice, for instance, for a writer means that it is just the way he writes. Or whatever artist, authentic voice of a painter, for instance. And this has really, at the first moment, nothing to do with the physical voice.
Yeah.
And when you find your authentic voice in the world, when you find it in your partnership, for instance, in the relationships, it sort of needs that you have also your authentic physical voice, because otherwise the credibility, the integrity is not really there. And I noticed, for instance, we had in Rome, I'm living in Italy, we had a Protestant priest, and he had wonderful things to say, and whenever he talked in the church, but his voice was so unimportant, let's say, so unconnected to his to his being, that you said, and after a while you didn't listen anymore. And there was another one who came every now and then, and he has such a wonderful voice. You were immediately caught into, and it didn't really matter what he said, but you had the idea, oh, I have understood well, and I really feel uplifted by what he said. So
can you give us an example how you portray those two voices so we can get the real, right now, feeling for that?
So the one voice, the one of the intellectual person who wanted to do everything right and so on, it was a little bit like this. He tells you this, and he tells you this, and then he tells you this, a little bit boring, and a little bit not on the, not in his energy, not on his voice, on his body connection, no? And the other one had a voice, it was like embracing you,
I love that. Oh, wouldn't we all want to have some voice like that, like the presence?
Absolutely.
How do you get into this presence and being like, how do you start?
You know, there are people who, for instance, do spiritual work and in meditation, and then they sit half an hour and even longer, and then they find out, oh, when they speak, their voice is much more full, much more sounding, you know. So one component for sure is finding a relaxed state of being. This can help a lot to have this voice, but sort of by chance, you know, because when the body is relaxed, when the mind is relaxed, you just open up and the voice drops into the body.
Yeah.
And so you have the full resonance at your disposition. As soon as
is this a physical thing? Like, can you describe that?
Yeah. It is both. It is a very, let's say, holistic thing. The physical thing is that the voice, to sound in a way that you like to listen to it, needs the most complex possibility to sound in your body. So all resonance spaces, when they are opened up, the voice sounds more complete, more grounded, more just nicer. A nice voice is a voice which has all this spaciousness in resonance. You know, all the vibrations from the very low ones to the very high ones all together combined, and then the voice is able to develop itself, to give expression, to transport the expression of what you really want to say, you know, when the voice is free. Free means really without impediments, without anything which is constricting you. And this is physically, but also mentally. Because normally when we have constricting thoughts, that goes on the body. As soon as there is fear,
you constrict. Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, this is scary. I don't. You know, the audience can already see if you're comfortable enough.
Absolutely,
right? Yeah.
Absolutely, they can. And when you are, for instance, take fear, because it's the most easy thing to understand. When you are in fear, especially women, but I think also men, go in the high register of voice. They're like this. Something like this, no? Because they lose the body contact because it's all up here and prepare to flee.
Yeah, I can relate to that. It's like speaking in front of people. It's the greatest fear anybody have from some study, right?
Yeah, so this is the natural disposition, you know, and the natural connection between voice and emotional states. And emotional states are connected with thoughts, with ideas, beliefs. They are connected with the relationship you have to yourself. When I come here, talk to you, and I have the idea, oh, I can never do that. I wouldn't know what to say. Something like this. I mean, what could I say? My voice would be hesitant. I would say, maybe I should say that, and hopefully she doesn't ask me the questions which are too difficult. I would try to hide, you know? I wouldn't be present anymore. If I would be caught by my beliefs, if I had that in this case, that I don't have to say anything, you know? Or if you have the belief you are the best in your field of, you know, the very best of all the others have no idea of what they are saying about. So you would appear in a sort of arrogant way, and the voice would transport it because it becomes a little bit hard, and a little bit, you know, something like this. So it's just as an example, the voice is following what you have inside.
Yes. Yeah, I can relate to that. That's a great point. So, so are there other components of just the physical or the, you know, what the fears we have? Is there anything else that's contributing as well?
You know, your whole life idea, the old worldview is contributing, and your momentaneous state of consciousness is contributing. So, and it is, you know, when you see people around and you see them with a face like this, you have an idea what is going on in them, you know. When you find people like this, you have an idea what is going on in them. We all intuitively perceive that.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's really powerful.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it is natural that we have impediments and that we have barriers and blocks and for certain things because we are grown up with certain beliefs which are not always really favorable for our growth and for our being in the world, being in relationships, for instance. And so we have the possibility to learn to be in a different way. And one way is, for instance, to go to psychotherapy to learn a little bit about what is on, or you do coaching, or you learn about the Enneagram, or you do certain healing processes. This is all possible. And one way is, for instance, to work with a voice, you know, to learn, like actors learn, to use the voice in a certain way, to be able to intentionally change your voice.
Yeah, but the first
certain degree,
it is possible. Aware of that you can do that. Isn't that the first step?
Oh yeah, this is. You are right. You're right. This is the very first step, and I find that normally people don't even think about it. That the voice they are using is not their authentic voice. It is a little piece of their authentic voice, normally, you know, because we all grow up with certain restrictions and how we have to talk, how we have to be in the world. For instance, little children are always, when they scream, you know, the parents say, be quiet, don't be so loud, and it's cool as well. And so we get used, at least in the Western world, we get used to dim down, to speak with a low voice which has no energy, which is not connected with the breath process, and which is not using anymore the physical muscles, you know, the physical body to sustain the voice, because the voice is sustained by the body. If you see very little children, you see when they scream, the whole body is moving. The belly, the back, everything is moving, you know? And we have sort of lost that to a big degree. And that's what we can how do you say? You can get familiar to it again, reawaken. Reconnect, reawaken. It is, for a certain amount, it is physical body muscle training of your lower body, of your sides, of your belly, and the pelvic area. These have to be trained to be able again to react spontaneously on what you want to do with the voice. For instance, people who have lost this connection, when they want to have a loud voice to call somebody in the distance, you know, they begin to scream. But screaming is not loud. You know, it's not really a volume. Screaming is something which goes like a knife, but they cannot really transport the words. A scream cannot transport the words. So people begin to heighten the volume as they think, but they don't heighten the volume, the frequencies, the bandwidth of frequency. They just heighten the frequencies, the higher frequencies, and this goes like a sword out into the...
Oh, don't we ever have experienced that when you are in an argument or something?
Sure.
And then you listen even less to the other person.
Yeah, yeah, and you lose your authentic voice when you begin to scream. Yeah, I want to say that, and you want, especially women, they go up in so high pitches, and then they are hysterical, and nobody actually wants to listen to a woman who is screaming. The husbands, for instance, they just go away with their listening. They don't want to listen to a voice like that, and they don't understand what is said to them in this way. And then the woman is disappointed because she said, I told you, but it never reached this person because he just couldn't hear it. It was too high, the pitch, you know. So in this way also, there is a connection between developing your authentic voice and being in relationship with other people.
That is profound. It just makes me think about if you could teach all your people to have an authentic voice, how many arguments, how many sufferings can we avoid in our relationships? That is that's like amazing.
Absolutely, because you get the consciousness of what happens when you go out of this authentic voice. And so you have the possibility to turn back and keep staying in your real, full, authentic voice. And this has then the other effect that when you, for instance, were angry and the voice gets up and up and up and up, and you have the possibility to go back into the low and round voice, you just cannot be angry anymore. Because when you express yourself in the round voice, this transmits a quietness, stillness. So, you know, this is like taking the things from the other part. When you are happy and relaxed, you have this very, very, very relaxed voice. And many people know this. When they get up in the morning, they have a deep voice, and it sounds inside, and during the day it goes away, you know. And then when you have learned to go back into this more sounding voice, more grounded voice in your body, then you can calm yourself, you know, in a literal way. Because, as I said, when you're in your full sounding voice, when you can feel your body sound while you are speaking, you just cannot be angry anymore and blow it out on the other people.
That is so amazing. I mean, everybody should really pay attention now, because if we can learn how to manage our voice and actually feel that we're speaking what we want to say and people hear us, this is so valuable. So what are you? What else is connected with that you do for service?
What do you mean? What I do for service generally?
Yeah, like how do you teach this?
Okay. My teaching is about awareness. It is about getting clear what is going on in yourself, in the body, and in the mind, mainly, and in the emotions. I mean, these are all connected, but we work on the different aspects in different modules, you know. And when you become very aware what your emotions, for instance, are, and how they are connected to your voice expression, when you then have the possibility to modulate your voice, to come back into, you know, it is not an outsider to press a button and then the voice is different. No, it is the way how you get back your voice. You go back into your body. You reconnect with yourself in the way that you feel the vibrations. I mean, while I'm speaking here, I feel the vibrations to my feet, you know. And get this consciousness, maintain this consciousness. As long as you can maintain this consciousness, you are in quite a quiet state. When you lose this consciousness, you can be quite sure that there's something which is bothering you in some way, you know. So I teach people to deliberately come back into this feeling of being deeply connected with this voice. And for most people, they have never heard this voice before. I normally, it happens to me that people, when they hear it for the first time, they feel it much differently. And then when they hear it on the recording, they say, that's me? That's me, that's not me. You know, they have never really experienced the whole potential of their voice. So this is what I do inside of the voice teaching consciousness part.
Yeah. Okay, so what kind of people do you like to work with? Like, who do you want to teach this to? Who can benefit best from what you do?
Curious people.
Curious people? It's like
people,
myself.
Yeah. People who want to find out how the world works, but we don't have to go to the world. First, find out how they themselves work. So they really need to be driven by the desire to know what is going on with themselves, inside themselves, how they are wired, you say, how they are wired. And to find out, for instance, this is then connecting with the other world, world too, it's true, it's another world. But the other work I'm doing is the relationship work, you know. Many people wonder why they don't have friends, or why they find a partner for a short time and then the partner runs away. And they think they have found the wrong one and they have to find another one. It might be so, but it can also be because they have certain ways of behaving that pushes other people away. And doing this voice work, you come also to these issues, you know, you come to these moments when you begin to realize, oh, when I talk in this way to a person, the other person feels hurt. I don't want to hurt him, maybe, but when you use the voice in this way and this expression in a certain way, you know, we Germans are very good in that, then the other person might feel hurt. And it happened to me a lot of times, and then I was wondering, but what is it, you know? And this inquiry then, and voice is an important part of it, because the voice transports your inner attitude. And if you have a rigid attitude, your voice will be sort of rigid, and the other people will perceive you as rigid. If you have the attitude, for instance, that you are doing well by yourself, you don't really need anybody else, and a lover comes into your life and gets to understand that you don't need anybody, inclusive him, you don't need anybody, he feels superfluous and he will leave, even if he liked you, you know. The voice is transporting your inner convictions. And that's where the two branches of my work begin to meet, you know.
That is profound. I mean, if I would know, if a person would know how to use the voice from that authentic place, there is so much happiness to be achieved here.
This is one thing, but you know, so many people work with their voices. For instance, teleseminarists, yes, but also teachers. And as I said before, the priests and so on. And they have no idea how much the voice is important. For instance, I heard a lecture of a high school teacher, and she had interesting things to say to adults, but I could hardly follow. She spoke in such a way, it's so quickly, and so on. And I thought, oh dear, her students, poor kids, how can they understand her? So if she teaches in this way, for sure it is so difficult to learn from her. And then she normally would say, oh, they are stupid, you know, they just don't, they are not interested and whatever. But she's not aware how difficult it is to follow her. And for a whole hour in this voice, you just, you know, it's natural for people who just cannot cope with that. They just shut down. They cannot listen anymore, you know. And if teacher knew that, they could have such a different teaching experiences. And the same thing in other speaking professions, you know. But people normally think the voice they have always heard, because they know the voice since birth, more or less, the development of their own voice, they think this is normal and that's it, and nothing to do. And this is not true. This is just not true.
Yeah.
And my mission is also to bring this out into the world, that normally the voice you are using to communicate with others is not your authentic and full voice. And you can develop it. This is the good news.
Yeah. So do you have some kind of meetings, or how could people contact you with if they're interested to learn this amazing thing that you're doing, you know, connecting your authentic voice to your own life and what you do? That is priceless.
It is. I have for the voice, I have a website. It's called integral-voice.com. No, .de. .de. It's German. Yeah, and unfortunately, so far it's only in German. But now with Google, you can translate, and more or less you will have a impression of what I have written. There are a lot of theoretical texts also to explain all these things in a more complex way. I hold workshops, and the next retreat we will have here, it will combine these things, and the retreat will be in 30th of April to the 4th or 5th of May, and there I will do a combination of both, get into the connection between relationship work and voice work.
Can you mention the website again? I couldn't hear
it. The German website is integral-voice.de, but there I'm much less around on this website now. If you want to more really contact me, go to thepowerofrelationship.com and ask me whatever you want to ask me. And we will find out. I try to do Skype sessions. It is working to a certain amount. I prefer to work in person, and there is the possibility to, for instance, come here to stay in holidays in Italy. It's always a nice place. Stay for a week, and we work individually. Excuse me, for about 3 or 4 hours a day. And after a week, you have a different voice. You just don't recognize yourself anymore. Excuse me, I have to drink a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the possibility. And contact me by the powerofrelationship.com in the contact formula. Then we are on Facebook. I'm in Facebook and Google Plus everywhere. The only thing you might be a bit confused here, I think my name is Heidi Hornlein. I'm often Heidi Hornlein. So I have both names, and you can find me under both names.
Yeah. Wow, this was a breathtaking topic that we talked about today, I think. And is there anything else you want to say before we finish?
Going on the journey to discover your own authentic voice is really an exciting process. This I want to say. And whoever goes there, you know, the only thing I still have to say is, don't think that you will have the same experience when you go to traditional singing lessons. There might be some teacher who is teaching in this holistic way, in this more complex way, who sees you as a whole person and not only as vocal cords with extension. So if you are inspired to take singing lessons or voice lessons, be very careful, because teachers have a big power on you, as you at the beginning have no real idea where the journey is going. And often teachers try to put on their students their own system, what they have learned, without considering that for everybody it's their own process which gives them access to their own voice. It's nothing which you put from outside on a person. It is a thing which unfolds from inside, because we had our authentic voice when we were young, when still everything worked together with us. And it's a sort of refinding, a rediscovering. And this is not by outside techniques. It is really a deeper way of digging in yourself and find out who your voice really is and who you really is. And so you will find your authentic voice, for sure.
Okay, thank you so much, Heidi. This has been very enlightening to hear about you and how you could actually discover how to bring out a different part of yourself that we didn't know about. So thank you so very much. And hopefully we will do another little session like this on also other topics that you have.
Okay. Thank you very much, Margherita. See you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.